Snippet this Monday is from the book of 1 Samuel, chapters 1 and 2. In these first two chapters of 1 Samuel, we meet Hannah, and Hannah is an amazing woman of faith, and one we don't hear of or talk about too often. Hannah had a husband who loved her, but she was unable to have children. That is a hard thing for any woman, but for a woman in Hannah's society, having a child tied directly with a woman's worth. Hannah must have felt this sense of unworthiness deeply, profoundly for many years. Yet Hannah did not give up on God. Hannah prayed so intensely, so fervently to God that the priest, Eli, who observed her, thought she was drunk. Hannah was not drunk. She was genuinely pouring out her grief and her anguish at being childless, pouring out her heart to God. By this time, she could have totally turned away from God, thinking there was no God, which is what many would do and have done. Instead, Hannah continued to pray, and God answered her prayer. Hannah gave thanks to God when her son Samuel was born, but that is not all she did. Hannah kept her promise to God. She had told God that if he would give her a son, she would give her son to the Lord for all the days of his life. Hannah kept her faith, and as God remembered her, Hannah remembered her covenant with God. When Samuel was old enough, she took him and told the priest, "I prayed for this child, and the Lord has granted me what I asked him. So now I give him to the Lord." That had to be practically impossible for Hannah to do. To leave her son, the one she had yearned for and prayed for years, to leave him with the priest, knowing that he would live his whole life there. There were no cell phones at that time. There were no text messages or airplanes or easy ways for her to keep in touch with her son. Hannah left him as she had told God she would. Hannah went on to have more children, but she did not know that would happen at the time. And Hannah not only honored her covenant with the Lord, she prayed and spoke about the majesty of the Lord. The beginning of chapter 2 says, "My heart rejoices in the Lord. There is no one holy like the Lord. There is no one beside you. There is no rock like our God." Hannah joyfully gave her son to the Lord and then told others about God. That is a quiet but amazing example of faith. Hannah was above all faithful. When Hannah prayed to God, she believed and God blessed her with a son. But Hannah did not just pour out her heart to God. She bargained with God. "God, if you will just give me a son, I will give him to you for all of his life." How many of us have bargained with God in prayer about one thing or another in our own lives? Hannah's was a tough bargain, though, and one she could easily have gone back on or interpreted differently. After all, she could have raised Samuel to be faithful to God and perhaps thought that that would be good enough to honor her end of the bargain. But Hannah didn't do that. Hannah wholeheartedly dedicated Samuel to God's service. She gave up her right to raise her child and instead prioritized her commitment to God, who had faithfully heard her cry and kept his word. To all of you mothers out there, can you imagine willingly giving your child to someone else to raise, even God? It's one thing to say we give our children to God in baptism, to say we dedicate their lives to God. It is quite another to think about actually physically turning your child over to someone else to raise for the rest of their life. Sadly, sometimes life circumstances do take our children or separate our children from us. But to willingly do so seems practically impossible, at least to me. Hannah was able to lay aside all of her hopes and dreams and desires for God's greater purpose. That is faith beyond all measure, my friends. And this is one of the women we come from. Hannah is only one of the great examples of faith we have in scriptures and in our own lives and our own experiences. Thanks be to God for all of the women in our lives who have given us such a legacy of love and faith and laughter over the years. May God bless them and keep them this day and always.